Joining me now to look at what is happening on the ground is the acting deputy administrator of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, Peter Gaynor. Peter, thank you for joining us.
Morning, Joe. Thank you.
So what's your main concern here about Barry? What should people know?
Well, first of all, we don't want to be concerned whether we call it a tropical storm or a hurricane. Really, it's about the rain. This is going to be a rain event, not only for Louisiana and surrounding states, but for the entire Gulf. So it's about life and safety today. And if you haven't taken action to prepare yourself, do it now. The clock is ticking on that. Before you know it, you'll have 10 to 20 inches of rain and flash flooding, and we want to make sure people are aware of that and do everything they can to prepare themselves and their family.
So how do you prepare? What's the best way to go about this?
The best way is to download the FEMA app. Lots of resources on there to help prepare you and your family. You can also look locally to your local emergency managers, your local or your state emergency managers for local apps. Plenty of resources out there to get you and your family prepared now.
But if you're not able to download an app, or maybe you don't have the best connection at this time, what else can you do?
You can get on the internet, ready.gov. Again, plenty of resources for being prepared. Again, lots of resources out there that you can use today to make yourself and your family more prepared for Barry.
So over at FEMA, what are you guys expecting to unfold in the next 24, 48 hours?
Well, again, I think it's for us, it's a rain event, making sure that people are aware that you're going to see flash flooding. We want to make sure people stay off the roads. Don't put yourself or your family in danger. Don't put first responders in danger. Stay out of the water. The majority of deaths, 90% of all weather-related deaths, are from flooding, and half of those are from people driving their cars into flooded waters. So again, it's dangerous. The water is the threat today. We want to make sure people are aware of that.
What have you guys learned at FEMA from Hurricane Katrina that you're applying today? We are leaning forward, not only FEMA, but the entire federal family. One of the things that we've done over the past year since Katrina is commodities, making sure that we pre-position commodities in and around the region. We've done that over the past couple days, from food, water, emergency communications, and staff. We are ready to go and answer any needs that any of the states may have when impacted by Barry. You were also hit with a few natural disasters over the last few months, last few years, and you did tell the House Committee on Homeland Security that your agency was understaffed by more than 2,000 people. Are you concerned that you guys aren't going to have enough responders for this storm?
No, not at all. We have plenty of staff out there in the states that are impacted, and it's not just FEMA that responds to these storms. It's the entire federal family. We're coordinating that right now. So between the Corps of Engineers, Department of Energy, Weather Service, plenty of staff out there making sure that we respond in immediate time and needs of the states or locals.
All right, Peter Gaynor, you're the Deputy Administrator over at FEMA. Thank you for your time this morning.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
Thank you. What the Vice President saw in Texas and what's going to change as a result of that. A member of Congress joining me next.
Update your floors with Empire Today's $50 room sale. Buy one room, get floors for all other rooms for just $50 each. So when you buy one room, it's only $50 for laminate in the kitchen, $50 for carpet in the bedroom, and $50 for hardwood in the office. There's no limit. Buy one room and it's $50 for floors in each additional room. Schedule now.
800-588-2300 Empire.
Today. Home sweet home. Your sanctuary. Your safe harbor. The place you would do anything to protect. In the back of your mind, you know you need home security. But traditional alarm companies have made things so complicated that you just keep putting it on the bottom of your list. Well, Simply Safe Home Security is changing that. One home, one customer, one thoughtful innovation at a time. A security system so simple, you can set it up yourself in less than an hour. An arsenal of sensors and cameras designed to blanket you with protection and keep going strong no matter what Mother Nature or anyone else throws at it. Be it power outages, downed landlines, cut Wi-Fi, bats, hammers, or anything else. It's home security that feels more at home in your home. Motion sensors that know the difference between a pet and an intruder. Window sensors so small they don't spoil the view. A doorbell that can answer the door for you. All professionally monitored for just $15 a month, with no contract or long-term commitment. It's home security the way it should be, and we're not the only ones saying it. Wirecutter and PC Magazine both named SimpliSafe Editor's Choice. The Verge compared SimpliSafe to 5 other home security brands, and along with CNET, named us the best. So, what are you waiting for? Join the 2 million Americans who've put home security back on the top of their list. Each system comes with free shipping and a 60-day risk-free guarantee. SimpliSafe. It's home security that feels more like home.
Summer nights keeping me up. I wanna waste time just looking up. Sky full of stars, mind wandering far like we're 16, dreaming in the dark. Love the wind in my hair as I drive my car.
Right now, lease the Infiniti QX50 for $379 a month, plus get a $1,000 summer bonus now during the Infiniti Plus Summer Sales event.
Major story broke late last night.
Well, let's start with the morning's top stories.
We begin with new data this morning.
Wake up with the news you need to start your day. Join Ayman Mohadeen and Yasmin Vasugian.
This is your morning rundown.
First Look, weekday mornings at 5 on MSNBC.
We're back now with more breaking news on Tropical Storm Barry. It's a large system threatening 3 states off the Gulf of Mexico with up to about 20 inches of rain. Barry expected to strengthen and make landfall as a hurricane later today. Let's go to NBC meteorologist Bill Cairns. Bill, what should we expect at this point?
Well, a lot of people are sitting there watching TV and the pictures, seeing pictures out of New Orleans and saying, this doesn't look like a big deal. The main event hasn't even started yet. It's not even on land. We're not even seeing the heavy rain in the areas that are most at risk of the flash flooding. Here's the storm system. It's starting to approach the coastlines. It's only going to 5 miles per hour, so it's walking, and it still has about 40 miles to go. So you can imagine that's not going to be till this afternoon. Just had a wind gust to 82 miles per hour at a little buoy station there just off the coast. Inland areas are a little less, but the winds are starting to pick up, especially the coastal areas. Let me take you through what's going to happen during the day today. Here's the center of the storm as we go throughout the morning. These are the predicted wind gusts. You'll see Baton Rouge jumping up to 50 to 60 this afternoon. New Orleans in the 50-mile-per-hour range. So the winds are going to pick up, and it will be strong enough to get some minor power outages out of this. Then as we go throughout the overnight tonight, as the storm moves northwards, the winds begin to weaken a little bit as the storm begins to weaken. Here's what our European model, this is one of our most reliable computer models, does with the storm. It takes it onshore. This is the area of concern. The area of yellow is heavy rain. The red is torrential rain. There's going to be a band on the east side. This is what's going to set up the worst flash flooding. It's telling us moderate to heavy all afternoon into this evening. And if I keep my hand here on the Baton Rouge area, even as the storm moves northwards, this feeder band stays within this region here. And actually, our computer's now trying to shift it into areas of eastern Arkansas, western portions here of Mississippi, and then back over the top of Baton Rouge as we go throughout 7 p.m. Sunday. So that's why we have about a 24 to 48-hour period of torrential rain in the same areas. And that's why the greatest concern here, up to 10 inches of rainfall, maybe 20 in this region, Baton Rouge, to right along the border of Louisiana and Mississippi. So, Jolene, the main event is still to come. And I know that's confusing for a lot of people because it seems like we've been dealing with this storm for a long time.
Well, Bill Cairns, thank you very much. We're going to keep an eye on it and stay with you for all those latest details. We appreciate it. All right, in a few minutes, we're now actually going to turn to the border crisis. Vice President Mike Pence witnessing firsthand the extreme overcrowding that migrants are dealing with at detention centers as he visited 2 in Texas this week. In McAllen, the VP saw nearly 400 men packed in sweltering cages where some said they had been detained for more than 40 days.
What you saw today was that the facility here in McAllen is overwhelmed. I wouldn't take the word of people that are being detained here in McAllen for how they're being treated, but I'm very confident that they're being provided with shelter and water and food and access to health care and access to hygiene.
Joining me now is California Representative Norma Torres. Congresswoman, thank you for joining me this morning. My first question to you is, the Vice President got a firsthand look at the crisis unfolding at these centers, and yet he is saying that he wouldn't take their word for the conditions there. What's your response to that?
Good morning, Jolene. My response to the Vice President is, he's absolutely death to humanity and the issues surrounding the detention of these people. Obviously, what he saw were overcrowded conditions. The smell alone should have alerted him that we need to do more and that this is unacceptable coming from the world's greatest country.
Now, the Vice President is also tweeting last night about his visit. He said it's time for Democrats in Congress to step up, do their jobs, and end this crisis. Congress just passed, of course, a $4.6 billion humanitarian aid package. So I want to know, what more action is he calling for, and are you prepared to help him deliver that?
I have done everything that I could possibly do since coming to Congress in 2015. Unfortunately, this administration and Vice President Pence himself has eroded the work that we have been doing in the Northern Triangle, addressing the issues there, the issues of public corruption, the issues of narco traffickers that have taken over those governments in those three countries. Unfortunately, he's decided to look the other way and not pay attention and not work with those governments for them to do better. Congress has given them almost $5 billion in emergency funding. What have they done with that money? They have transferred that money to once again create this immigration force, this deportation force that is now going into our communities with scare tactics, and are planning to deport over 1 million people. Where are they going to put these people? What are we going to do in our communities with those children that are left behind? Those are American citizen children that deserve to have their parent here who is struggling and working and living in our communities and doing everything that they can to attain the American dream.
Well, you did vote against that aid package, I want to be clear. So why is that, and what are you going to do to make sure that this problem gets resolved in another way?
So the issue with the aid package that I think everybody needs to understand is the fact that we cannot simply give this administration a blank check without giving them specific instructions on how to spend that money. And that is to alleviate some of the hurt that they have caused on these migrants at the border and to bring about the assistance that these border agents need. Now, I don't expect border agents to change diapers and bathe babies. Absolutely not. But we need to have facilities that can accommodate the help that they need to ensure that if you're going to detain babies, and number one, children should not be in a cold jail cell with nothing but an aluminum blanket over them. What kind of a religious person goes into a facility like that, sees those people being held in cages and children behind prison cells and says, this is the best that we can do and Americans should be proud? Well, you know what, Vice President? Americans are not proud of what you are doing to those children. And thousands of them came out last night to vigils across the nation.
Now, Representative Torres, you also have said the world ought to be outraged by these conditions. You've outlined some of those details. Why do you think the Vice President is not outraged?
Because he is following the Trump agenda. It's hatred against people that look like me, people of color. They do not want to see any more brown people here. And let me remind the world also, it is not illegal to come and ask for asylum, to seek refuge in the greatest nation in the world. And as Americans, it is so impulsive that he would go out there and try to create and paint a picture of a loving, caretaking group in our southern border, that it isn't what truly is happening.
I also know you immigrated to the U.S. from Guatemala as a child without your parents. What is it like for you to witness this?
It is simply heartbreaking. This is so personal to me because I was sent to live to the U.S. To live with my uncle. And this was in the 1970s. Now you fast forward to today, I would have been one of those children in one of those cold cells and would have been separated because my uncle would not qualify as a legal guardian under these new rules of this administration. And this is what's causing, thousands of children to continue to suffer under, in their hands. They should be with loving relatives around the country who are willing and able to care for them and want to do just that.
Congresswoman Norma Torres of California, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
President Trump losing another cabinet member. What to make of the farewell next.
Today's Best Western. What does that mean?
With rewards points that never expire, you get free nights fast. Now get a $20 Best Western gift card after your first stay. Book now at bestwestern.com.
At Angie's List, we help you feel confident about hiring pros for home projects. You can check their ratings, read verified reviews, and easily request multiple quotes. Find all the pros you need to know at angieslist.com.
I used to have to go in to the auto parts store. Pay too much, never find quite what I'm looking for. Now I just go online to Rock Auto and see all the parts my car will ever need. Lower prices, more parts, more brands. It's so easy to find the right parts fast. All the parts your car will ever need. Rock Auto. All the parts your car will ever need. RockAuto.com.
This is PillPack. I'm supposed to take medication every day, but sometimes I get a little distracted. Push it. I'm just finishing work. Woo! It's my ship. That's why I switched to PillPack. They package my medication by the dose and deliver it right to my door. So now I never forget. And the best part, their service is free. I only pay my copays. Does your pharmacy do that? Visit pillpack.com today.
This one looks empty. What do you think?
Oh, dude, stop.
What?
I got a ring.
What are we supposed to do?
Well,
Tell you what I'd do. I'd start running.
let's maybe just...
Now, gentlemen,
Okay,
hustle!
Go.
Does your doorbell do that? Ours does. Get tough on crime with the Ring Video Doorbell. Keep your home and your neighborhood safe. Available at ring.com.
Government buy-in for all the people, not just the powerful and well-connected. That's the American promise. But big corporations and special interests are in control. Nothing's happening for real people. Our democracy has been purchased. The candidates running for president have great ideas, but we can't get anything done unless we make our democracy serve the people again. I'm Tom Steyer. I approve this message. I'm running for president because it's time our democracy works for people.
Life doesn't give you many second chances. But a Subaru can.
You guys okay? You all right?
Eyesight with pre-collision braking. Standard on the Subaru Ascent. Presenting the 3-row Subaru Ascent. Love is now bigger than ever.
Senator Amy Klobuchar.
What I am for is building on the Affordable Care Act.
Senator Cory Booker.
I intend to do everything I can to tear down the system of mass incarceration.
Two candidates hoping to break through. KCDC, tomorrow at 7 on MSNBC.
We're watching breaking news from Tropical Storm Barry. A new tornado warning is now in effect for Jackson County in Mississippi. Residents are being urged to take cover, and Barry is also threatening to drench 3 Gulf Coast states with up to 20 inches of rain. All that is expected to make landfall as a Category 1 later today. Now, to an unusual farewell to a Trump administration official. President Trump and his departing Labor Secretary, Alex Acosta, standing side by side to announce his resignation. The president heaping praise on his outgoing cabinet member who's under fire for his role in the 2008 plea deal signed with Jeffrey Epstein.
I just want to let you know, this was him, not me, because I'm with him. He's a tremendous talent. I'm willing to live with anything, John. I think you know me. I've lived through things that you wouldn't believe.
Joining me now is Democratic strategist Howard Franklin and attorney and conservative radio talk show host Chandelle Summer. Thanks, guys, for being here. Howard, first to you. The president is denying that he saw the storm surrounding Acosta as a distraction to the Labor Department. Do you buy it?
Absolutely not. I mean, we've seen a number of unceremonious exits from the White House for scandals like these in the past. And of course, you got to give it a day or two to try to shore up whatever public confidences there are to be had out there. But it was time for him to go, and I'm glad to see him make this decision.
Chandelle, what does the president get when he takes Acosta's side, when he's basically heaping all this praise and also wants to be seen at the same time as someone who is not a fan of Jeffrey Epstein here?
I think what he gets is the controversy removed from the subject matter and also from the news. Now that the Me Too movement has their victim, he can move on to other issues. There may have been some underpinnings of dissatisfaction by the president with Acosta's work. There have been complaints about his slow acting on deregulation and other issues. So I think that although President Trump seemed rather ambivalent about the departure, I think he's happy to have the distraction removed.
Howard, President Trump, like we said earlier, he's not shy. He always name calls. He loves to levy those insults. But with Jeffrey Epstein, he said he stopped at saying he's not a fan. So why is he passing up perhaps an opportunity to disavow the bad behavior that Epstein is accused of?
You know, he's had plenty of opportunities to disavow bad behavior, and typically when that behavior has reflected or mirrored or in any way paralleled his own, he has stopped short of calling it out. I think there's a lot of similarity in this particular case as to some others, whether it's been excesses of those offices or those cabinet secretaries or other accusations that have been made that might mirror accusations we heard about the president or then the candidate as he was running for the office.
Chandelle, what about Acosta choosing to go out? Are you at all surprised that he isn't accepting more responsibility here, showing any remorse for his role in that non-prosecution agreement? I mean, wouldn't this be a good time to perhaps do that?
I don't think that it is a good time to do it ever. He did what he thought was the right thing at the time, and it's really easy to go back and second guess all these prosecution decisions that they make, but there may have been problems with the evidence. Sometimes the environment changes. Right now we have sort of a electrified environment when it comes to any allegations of sexual abuse. The Me Too movement has really been counterproductive in that respect because of the fact that there's really no more due process. It's just a witch hunt, quite frankly.
Okay, so Howard, I want to talk about with Acosta gone, he's the quote 11th cabinet official to quit or be forced out, several under some questionable circumstances here. And here's a look at where things stand right now in terms of acting positions and vacancies in top administrations. I mean, it's a lot of names, a lot of positions. How unusual is this?
It's very unusual. It also speaks to an unwillingness or a lack of seriousness around governance. I know that this particular candidate, now president, fiated that he could do all the things that were necessary to make the country great again. And I think one of the things he's missed in so doing is actually putting people around him who've got the experience, who've got the commitment to actually working in government and doing what needs to be done.
All right, Howard and Chandelle, thank you both for being here this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The worst may yet to come in Louisiana as Barry drenches the region. The latest in a live report coming up.